So good evening, everybody. I think this has been a pretty long day. So I would like to invite you maybe to stand up for a few seconds. Next time, maybe we can schedule some coffee break. Or at least just a few seconds, like feel free to stretch. I feel a bit sorry to inflict one more presentation on everybody. I'll do my best with some pictures of Kyoto. You know, I've been living in Kyoto. I'm from France, but I've been living in Kyoto for 16 years. This is a beautiful city. We're so lucky to live here. So they would try to enjoy some photos of Kyoto. I really love Kyoto. I think we are all here because we love Kyoto, for sure. So my presentation today is about from information to knowledge, wisdom, and to life. And of course, this is about key differences between those different terms. Information is what we get from outside, we need to get in order to survive, but this is not yet knowledge. Knowledge is organized, knowledge is reflective, knowledge is also making sense of what's happening. And knowledge that can be actually organized or researched or advanced in university is not yet wisdom. And in Shishikan, we try to reach that level of wisdom. This is why we have this Mon Eishi Eshue. And this is why we insist upon Mushashugyo, having like practical experience. Because wisdom is very much not only a knowledge that we have in the head, but this is a wisdom that we become. And of course, this is not easy. And ancient philosophers, they didn't believe that someone would actually own wisdom, but they believed in the progression toward wisdom. And in the end, I'm going to talk about life. And actually, I want to start with a few reflections, philosophical reflections on life and death, because we are also a school that talks about human survival. So I think this is a role. I'm specialized in Buddhist philosophy and comparative philosophy. So I feel it's a bit my duty to bring those elements. So since we have our colleagues from Goethe University in Germany, I thought it was nice to invite Goethe to our university here today with his famous words, Gedenke zu leben, that means don't forget to live. So you may think, oh, I'm living, I know. Yeah, but this is a different meaning. Ancient philosophers, they thought a lot about memento mori, remember that you will die. Not to become depressed, but to understand the value of life and not to miss the chance that we're given. So then the next element is also equally important. Don't forget to live. Don't forget to be fully present with the people that are around you. And I will read a few more words by a French philosopher that wrote that book on Goethe. A vulgar and trivial life is a life without ideals, a routine dominated by habit, worries, egoistic interests, which conceal from us the splendor of existence. To free oneself from the trivial and from platitude, one must not, according to Goethe, do as the Romantics did and escape the present to take a refuge in a distant or future ideal. On the contrary, one must recognize that each present instant is not trivial, that one must discover its wealth and value. Only by means of this becoming aware of the value of the present can life rediscover its dignity and nobility. So I think in survivability studies, we not only aim to survive, that would be a little bit like a dystopian scenario, we try also to thrive and live a life that has meaning, that can be well lived. And in order to do so, and rediscover this joy of living, this when we are fully present in what we do, our research group at Shishikan, the Mindful Living Research Group, try to integrate various disciplines in search of an art of living. And to do so, we try to blend ancient wisdom, and especially the ancient wisdom traditions that are present in Kyoto, that are embodied in Kyoto's temples, gardens, and arts. But also we try to make sense of them and make them more relevant to the modern society through modern psychology. And the bridge in this work is the concept of mindfulness. Of course, this is an English word, but the original concept is the Buddhist concept. It's an Indian and then Chinese, and in Japanese it is read as Nen. You have two parts, Ima, which is now, and the mind or heart. So this is basically presence of mind. And my first point is that we all have mindfulness, we all have Nen. So this is, I'm not trying to talk about something that some people have and people don't have. We all have it. And actually the very beauty of Kyoto is that it has cultivated such carefulness, such thoughtfulness. So this is what we're trying to elucidate in order to enhance it and to somehow create or recreate a more viable culture, because modern civilization is extraordinarily destructive. And we had our guests from Germany and Europe right now. Western Europe is very, and Europe and Eastern Europe, of course, is extremely frightened. So how can we from Kyoto contribute to generate a more viable culture that is not destructive, that is creative? So Kyoto is a wonderful place for that. And this is a program we co-organized a few months ago with Oxford University, because Kyoto has this capacity to really bridge tradition so that we can dig ancient wisdom, but also with innovation. Because ancient texts, ancient ideas, they don't have the answers ready for our problems today. So we need to be creative. We need to be innovative as well. And that's the beauty, I think, of Kyoto. Tradition meets innovation. And our research group, especially several of us, really work to identify what's really mindfulness in Japanese culture. And we could say it's a form of ethics of attention or aesthetics of care. And actually the arts that our students at Chichikon are practicing, tea, flower, calligraphy, there could be thought as traditional way or those to cultivate mindfulness. So in Japanese, there are many, many different ways to talk about it: nen-iri, sen-nen, kanen, omoiyari. So this is what we mean by mindfulness here. So in our research, we try to bridge the study of ancient classics and traditions, philosophy as especially an art of reflection, and then of course cognitive sciences, especially psychology, that can be more experimental, evidence-based, and can be more in touch with current needs, so that we can actually offer new fruits to the next generations. So the idea is not just to repeat the past or to repeat ancient tradition. Just a little bit like an academic definition to start. So we try to have a holistic model of mindful living. So mindfulness can be defined as a life skill that is closely linked to executive attention, the capacity to focus, the working memory, to staying focused. And that skill is to be cultivated or enhanced or exercised by practices, can be meditation, art, and actually academic scholarship. You know, all of you are actually, I would say, are very, very mindful. You can't get an academic degree without being mindful, because mindfulness is this executive attention. You need to read, to write, to reflect, to not to jump to hasty judgments, to have a certain perspective taking, etc. So then what we mean by researching and improving mindfulness is this, because it can be actually systematically trained with adapted psychoeducation. That's very, very important. And this is what is being developed in so-called scientific, especially with medicine and psychology, neuroscience, mindfulness-based programs. And but the end then is to integrate those elements into ways of life, in compassionate relation to others, and in responses to challenges. Mindfulness is not just going to the spa and feel good. That's important, by the way. But then it's to better respond, and better respond even or to survive, to find the resources for resilience. So I won't do the whole history of mindfulness. In our research group, we focus more on mindfulness-based cognitive therapy that was particularly developed for preventing depression relapse. So it's very, very sophisticated, and because it's combined with cognitive and behavioral therapy, so CBT. So it has a very analytical model that is very in harmony with Buddhist philosophy, basically. And this is what they developed in different big universities, especially Oxford. They have this integration already. So we try to contribute to that dialogue and that integration. But another definition of mindfulness, especially in early Buddhist texts, it is protective awareness. Mindfulness is the capacity to take care of oneself and to protect one's own mind. Because if we don't protect minds, lives might be in danger. So just a few basic facts, according to WHO, an estimated 3.8% of the world population experience clinical depression. And we're not talking about being sad. We're talking about not being able to work, not being able to see friends. Including 5% of adults, approximately
280 million people in the world have depression. Depression can lead to suicide. More than 720,000 people die due to suicide every year, and suicide is the third leading cause of death in 15 to 29 years old. Yeah, and we think about suicide here, but think about people stabbing others. So at some point, people lose their mind. And whatever we can do to avoid that, we need to do it. And actually, Mark Williams, who is one of the co-founders of NPCT and who I've trained, actually is a specialist of suicide. And what, of course, people who work with suicidal, people who have a suicidal ideation needs to be extremely trained. But what I can say is that mindfulness-based programs offer a really sophisticated model to understand psychological distress that leads some people to commit suicide or to try to commit suicide, and then to skillful methods to deal with this distress. But then the idea, of course, of our research group and other programs that Mark Williams developed is to prevent that, so that people get like some strengths of character, some moral strength. So we, especially in Kyoto University now, in our collaboration, we focus on this program that is adapted to healthy population, to everybody, in order to prevent, to maintain, and to enhance. And over the last years, I've developed a collaboration with William Kalkin, who is the current director of Oxford Mindfulness Center. Actually, the reason I contacted him because he wrote that book with a scholar in Buddhist studies. This is a brilliant book that now I also use in the classes here. And what I wanted to say about, because today we're supposed to talk about what's our experience with interdisciplinarity. Well, I will say that interdisciplinarity to work must be based on friendship, on really enjoying collaborating together, enjoying being together, enjoying exchanging different perspectives, and it's based on mutual respect and mutual appreciation. This is what we have developed with our team. And today I'll report mainly this project that is now just being finished, the Mindfulness from Information to Knowledge to Wisdom and to Life. So this is our team with William Kalkin, a psychiatrist and anthropologist of education, Yotaro, who all of you here know, and myself. But what I wanted to say here, our friend was a psychiatrist here is wearing a mask. He didn't have the time because he was late that day. The reason he was late, at that time he was working at Kyoto University Hospital. He was late because one of his patients, a young student, tried to kill herself, jumped off the window. So we need also to be aware of such vulnerability. So in our team, Professor Uwatoko is in charge of telling us what is the actual situation. That's not my specialty, but we have the chance to have him on the team. And on that day, we also had a student from Harvard. At that time, she was a bachelor student. Now she just finished. She's finishing. But Harvard students are also under a huge pressure. So there are considerable concern for them as well. So academic excellence is important, but we need to be aware of vulnerability. So basic facts here to start. This is, again, not my field. So it's based on Professor Uwatoko's work. But I wanted to say that in this survey, in like 2022 survey, they found, according to self-report, and 57% of responding students self-reported having a mental health problem, and 27% had been diagnosed with a mental illness. So this is just after COVID. And here we saw also a very high level of depression, anxiety, and even a quite high number of people like reporting like suicidal ideation, which is not really trying to commit suicide, but still it's very concerning. And also a lot of anxiety in Japanese students, depression as well. So, but here the bigger question I've asked, and this is a slide I've shared a couple of times at Shishikan, was asked already like more than 60 years ago by the British American poet Thomas Stearns Eliot. Where is the life we have lost in living? Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? And where is the knowledge we have lost in information? And many people in information theory and AI, critical thinkers consider that those words are more actual than ever. And so there are actually a few years ago when I've been in Shishikan for 10 years, almost 10 years now. In the first years, I was talking a lot about like, okay, logical reasoning is important, but emotional intelligence is important as well. So mindfulness can help for that. Today, I have a different approach. Today, I would say we need mindfulness in order to preserve our intellectual or cognitive performance.
So this book is quite provocative, digital backup. Because of multitasking, if you disperse your attention, if you fragment your thinking, in the end, well, academic performance is not, or cognitive performance is not getting better. But we can do something for that. So this is not, and mindfulness, I think, can really help. And now, over the last years, I've been in touch with many designers and people, CEOs of startups, especially in Silicon Valley, and we can redesign actually the digital world, so to speak, so that it remains human. That's what I want to discuss today. I've already, I think, presented this a couple of times, but the reason why multitasking or mindless use of digital technologies can actually dumb down the mind is because attention has two systems: capacity to focus and capacity to enlarge. Top down, bottom up, voluntary, involuntary, and we need, and this balance is very, very important. And here is the point: mindfulness is what allows us to find this balance. We'll do a little exercise a little bit later. But what some misuses of digital technology do is that generally we have a very narrow awareness. So we just are in front of phone, and that on the street, it's dangerous. So don't walk with the phone. But then if we have this like narrow awareness, we have also low metacognition. Metacognition is the capacity to remember what we're supposed to do. So then we are distracted, but we don't even know without even knowing we're distracted. The second one is the incapacity to focus on one element because so much stimuli. We're carried away very, very easily. So even if we know we're distracted, we need the capacity to redirect the mind. And that's not always the case. We may, oh, I'm distracted, but I can't help. Again, mindfulness can help for that. And here is, again, the beautiful garden from Kyoto, the Shisendo. And for me, Japanese architecture and landscape perfectly illustrates, this is perfect visual representations of what mindfulness is. Enlarging awareness, large, hiroi kokoro, and ante tekina kokoro. But I want to read a few, since we have like Cho Sensei and other, AI researchers, I wanted to share a couple of quotations from this very interesting book, because it's not written by a philosopher, it's written by Kissinger, who was a famous strategist and geopolitician, Schmidt, who was the former CEO of Google, and Upton Launcher is the dean of MIT. So not technophobic people, and very, very interesting reflections on AI. So they wrote, the internet deprives its users of the solitude required for sustained reflection that historically has led to the development of convictions. The digital world has little patience for wisdom. Its values are shaped by approbation, that means likes, not by introspection. The irony is that even digitization is making an increasing amount of information available, it is diminishing the space required for deep, concentrated thought. Today's near constant stream of media increases the cost and thus decreases the frequency of contemplation. Algorithms promote what seizes attention in response to the human desire for stimulation. And what seizes attention is often the dramatic, the surprising, and the emotional. The ability to engage with vast bodies of data may also accentuate forms of manipulation and error. AI is capable of exploiting passions more effectively than traditional propaganda. AI is now excellent at delivering addictive content to humans, as well as to instill prejudice, hate, and division. In the age of AI, then, human reason will find itself both augmented, more capacities, and diminished. The consumption of information is not to be confused with the identification of truth. The age of AI is yet to define its organizing principles, its moral concepts, or its sense of aspirations and limitations. And final, very important part, morally, philosophically, psychologically, practically, in every way, we find ourselves on the precipice of a new epoch. We must draw on our deepest resources, reason, faith, tradition, and technology to adapt our relationship to reality so it remains human. And I think this is what we are doing at Shishikan. This is why I think Shishikan is very precious, because we can gather those different elements from different disciplines, sciences, and even traditions. And
again, mindfulness defined as presence of mind is what allows someone to have clear memory, sustained reflection, and full attention. The capacity to give one's full attention. And actually, full attention is not far from love. And you may remember a few weeks ago, we had like Matsumoto Oki saying like, love what you do. In order to love what you do, you have to give your full attention. It's a form of respect and engagement. And mindfulness does so further away from selecting information to organizing knowledge and to embodying wisdom. That's the process, the path of Monchi Shu in a sense. So very quickly now, I wanted to share what are the core ingredients of the life-saving skill of mindfulness. Well, self-awareness, attentional control, and emotion regulation. So again, one way to figure it out with visual presentations, maybe to look at Seifuso photos. So becoming aware is the first step. So it's entering into a deeper state of presence, deeper state of awareness, like when we enter the tea garden, the logi at Seifuso through the Chumon, the gate, the middle gate. And then gathering attention, the capacity of you to concentrate. And finally, to re-expand awareness and reopen. And then in the end, to face the reality, to be present with, to face the challenges, and then to respond to them with greater presence. So here is a little exercise. So I wanted maybe we could do it together. So the idea is there's 3 steps, and today we have the 3-minute thesis. So this is the 3-minute mindfulness exercise. So if you want to do, just please follow my suggestions. If you're not really interested, you can just take a power nap or reflect about your research. So you're really free to really, your own mind is your own freedom. So this is just an invitation. So, so the first step is to check in, is to become aware of oneself, sensations, emotions, and thoughts. Then step 2, gathering, is to create some more focus, especially by using the sensations of the breath. And the mindfulness of breathing is really absolutely central in all Buddhist traditions since the Buddha, basically, and in India more largely, and it's extremely important in Japanese arts and Japanese martial arts as well. So there are many, many terms in Japanese for that. So that's the main focus. And then there is this other expansion. So in our group, we try to use the 8-shape model, becoming aware, with a spirit of acceptance. That's also a very, very important aspect. This kind of open mind. We're not trying to manipulate our experience. So we bring a kind of gentleness to ourselves and to those around us. So that's a little bit the model. If I can have a chair, I'd like to sit. Well, let's go together now to Okochi Sanso. And if you would like to do the practice with me, the idea is to take a more dignified posture. So if you were a bit sleepy, maybe somehow adopting a more erect and intentional posture. Hands can be just on the knees. Again, if you choose, you can just take a power nap, thus being a long day. Otherwise, eyes can be closed or open as you like. In step 1 of the 3-step breathing space, becoming aware, checking in with your own experience as it is. Simply noticing the thoughts going through the mind, just as mental events. Noticing the feelings, maybe a bit tired, and feelings of fatigue after a long day of studying. Now noticing feelings in the body, sensations. Just opening to them. Giving our full attention to the body sitting here. Feeling the sensations of touch, the floor, the chair. Being fully here, sitting. Step 2, gathering attention.
observing mindfully the flow of the breath, especially following the movements of the lower abdomen. During the in-breath, expanding, and the out-breath, relaxed. Whenever you notice the mind is no longer on the breath, just observing what has grabbed your attention and gently but firmly bringing the mind back to the breath. Each new breath. Step 3, expanding awareness to now include the sensations, body as a whole, breathing with the whole body sitting here. Now opening the eyes if they were closed, and opening to awareness to embrace the whole space of the room, a kind of panoramic awareness, bringing a sense of gentleness and openness to others as they are. Thank you. So the idea, so this is a very short practice that somehow condenses many practices, and this is a practice that can be done anytime. Sometimes as a first responder, when we feel big stress or we feel a bit low, it's useful sometimes just to take a few breaths. It doesn't have to take 3 minutes, it can take just 3 seconds. And the idea is to weave it, you think about mindfulness as a thread and to weave it into our daily lives. That's very much the idea. And this practice is very useful in order to study well, as I will conclude. Time is almost, we have only a few minutes, but I just wanting to quote also the words of French philosopher Simone Weil. She wrote, "Forming the faculty of attention is a true goal and almost unique benefit of studying." So she was talking a lot about attention, but she also said, in order to really pay attention, one must know how to do so. So again, this little exercise can help because the mastery of attention, use enlarging, so basically zooming out, zooming in, zooming out. This is this flexibility that is really important in order to know how to pay attention. And again, traditional arts like tea, flower, or calligraphy are actually arts how to pay attention, especially for tea, how to pay attention to another person, the guest or the master. And she also said that attention is often confused with a kind of effort, but she argued rightly that genuine education actually relies on the joy of learning, because intelligence can only lead by desire, and for there to be desire, there must also be pleasure and joy. That's a really also important aspect. So actually, I think it's possible to rediscover the joy of learning through mindfulness. So imagine learning without boredom or anxiety. Imagine realizing both academic excellence, writing good papers, but without destroying yourself. That means also realizing your own well-being. And the good news, it is possible. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's without effort. No, we must do effort, but effort doesn't have always to be painful. Real effort, and actually strong effort, is enthusiasm, passion, love for what you do. So just a quick now overview. So we have, over the last years, included now a full 8-week course in Shishikan. It is part of a 15-week course. We do it in Tachiban and Kaikan. And here are the different techniques. So there are 8 main techniques. And the one we did together is the last one and the shortest one. That's the essence of all other exercises. Last September with Yotaro, Francisco, and others, we also organized, and this is a joint event with Oxford Mindfulness Foundation. We had this 5-day mindful leadership event in Arashiyama with leaders. And we also have created a 3-hour
intensive workshops so that people can learn the main techniques in only 3 hours, because I know people are busy. And what we have created, and this is now an invitation, this is new, we just created it, I think last month, okay. So we created the one-day mindfulness retreat for academic writing. So again, our point here is mindfulness for life, mindfulness for research, mindfulness for excellence, mindfulness for like flourishing. But here it's for academic writing. And we do it at SafeSource. This is a very supportive environment, because actually writing is the heart of research. If you have a lot of findings, then you have to wrap them up. And you need to do it with actually high quality focus. And so we have structured a schedule, so from 9:15 to 5, so that there is actually 4 hours of deep writing. And the rest, we do some practices, we also have moments to talk to each other, to refresh. But this is very important to learn that capacity. So the next one-day mindfulness retreat for academic writing will be February 14th. So if you're interested, please contact us, either myself or Lyotaro, Francisco, and others. And again, just a short practice, that we did together, just short practices like that have been proven to be effective to enhance cognitive performance. So again, if you feel this is interesting and you want to give it a try, sometimes before you study, before you write, you can do that. That's much better than checking Facebook or YouTube. This is really increasing your capacity to fully engage your attention. And again, I think this is a quote from Inamori, former great leader of Japan. The great results is basically quality of attention multiplied by time. But if you have a low quality attention, even if you work long hours, this is not going to be outstanding. So again, those simple exercises can really help to improve such quality of work. And that is my conclusion, like wrapping up the introduction and the conclusion. Don't forget to live, and remember, breathe. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the references, and I look forward to our short discussion now. Thank you.
Any questions from audience?
DEROCHE, thank you very much, and I am very appreciative, because we are looking for our goal is bringing the Earth system into the space future. And that case, the importance of the nature and especially the scenery is we want to quantify or qualify and all this, and that is the kind of goal. And if you can extract some importance by being into nature, like Kyoto, like that picture, and what they bring with, what kind of benefit, what kind of energy, can you describe, and can we explain, like in the quantitative way or qualitative way, or you cannot do, unless you become meditation. And can you explain about that kind of effect, what being with the nature and also the culture, what brings you exactly for the person to recognize the science, so for the easy one? Can you explain for us?
Yeah, thank you very much, Yamashita, for picking up this very important aspect. And this is actually the next projects. The next phase of our research group is really with new students, is really to focus on the importance of exposure to nature, of being in nature. And in Arashiyama, this is very much what we did. And we created actually a structured program to enhance this perception of nature. And how, that there is like Shinrin Yoku, right? So like forest bathing. I think this is really, really important. And there is in Kyoto a deep wisdom of connecting with nature. So especially the art of garden, the garden design, is not just nature, it's how you connect to nature. And you have all those spaces, especially those buffers that are created, like the Engawa, the Nure-en, etc. All those like intermediate spaces that create actually a deeper connection with nature. So yes, actually there are quantitative studies now. And when we did the Arashiyama program, we had like a Professor Ruth Baer from Oxford, and she made actually a presentation, so I can share her slide with you. So she has actually reviewed all this research, and I think this is something that is really important now, especially for the connection for the research on depression. Depression is mainly, or different forms of mental disorders are generally linked to rumination, overthinking, and actually, in order to break through or to break those patterns, it's very important to retrain direct perception, so sensing directly nature. And there are actually important research that is being done. And actually, this is a little announcement. In October, we'll have also a special event on philosophy of nature and contemplation of nature with some professors from France, and also Uehara Mayuko Sensei, who is the professor of Japanese philosophy, and she works actually also with the Yamagiwa Sensei's institute as well. So thanks a lot. We will talk. This is the next presentations. I hope to bring a lot of things, and I send you the slides from Professor Baer. Thank you very much.
Any other question from audience? Yes, please.
DEROCHE, thanks for your excellent speech. And I want to ask your opinions about AI models as an AI researcher. And I want to know, as you have said, I totally agree that nowadays, I think people are becoming more mentally vulnerable because of modern technology become more strong. Also, AI models, and when we train AI model, we usually want to try to make it deeper, since if it is deeper, it will be become more robust. But this kind of seems like a trade-off to me. Like when the modern technology becomes stronger, then the people, because of based on this kind of technology, people may be more mentally vulnerable because a lot of information or a lot of efforts are substituted by those modern models. So what is your opinion, or what is your guidance advice towards the AI models? And I want to hear your.
Thank you very much. So the first thing I would say that last year, this year as well, I had the chance to meet actually a lot of AI developers, like top notch. And what really impressed me most is that they don't know what's going to happen. When you talk about all those top developers, like those geniuses, they have no idea that what that may create. So I think that's the first thing we must be aware. Even top developers, they don't know. So that's why actually Schmidt and Kissinger and Launcher actually, we need to draw on all our resources. We need to create dialogues. So we can't, what for sure, we can't let development only in the hands of engineers. We can't. We need to create things like Soko says on Gakon in order to rethink and somehow guide the evolution. But we need also to guide the evolution. Of course, I think the my central message is we need to identify what makes us really human and humane. And that's why I think today's conversation was also very, very important. And I will conclude because this is very short. I need to give a short answer to a very complicated problem. But in Japan, in Kyoto especially, there is a notion of Buddha nature and Busho, that every sentient being has this capacity, this sentience, this presence. I think this is maybe at the core of being alive, the core of being a living being. So we need maybe to go deeper into that so that we somehow have, and maybe let me conclude with reference to one anime. So have you seen the movie Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind with Nigerian generation? So the idea is we need somehow to accompany the movement, but we need to reconnect maybe to this. This was discussed today with Lita, this altruism and also the sense of symbiosis, of tomoiki, of kyosei, like of living together. What's the interconnection of life? I think that's something important. Otherwise, if AI is something outside of the living world, it can become more like a cancer or something like that. It doesn't have to be that way necessarily. And I think we should not give up to fear and to dystopian scenario. We should, again, we have the power to imagine a better future. That's very, very important as well. Yeah. So I don't want to we should not give up to fear. That's very, very important. We can imagine a better future if we draw on all those resources and we talk to each other. Thank you.
All right. Any other question? If not, please join me. Oh, yes, the last one. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering if I could hear you talk more about mindfulness as a tool for interconnection, because I think I always had the image of mindfulness as very introspective and kind of internal and solitary.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to things like depression and mental health. One criticism I've often heard of the West is that Western approaches tend to be too individualistic. They focus on the individual rather than seeing the individual as part of a more complex, as belonging in a more complex life.
Yes.
And so, yes.
Yes. So it's again, it's a huge topic, especially in those last years. It's been a huge change in the field. Thinking about attention, that's not something that you have and you develop by yourself. Actually, attention is developed, especially executive function. So executive attention, the capacity to control, orient your attention is very, very likely hypothesis is that executive attention or executive functions develop in children through the presence of a caring, more knowledgeable adult. So basically, through someone attending to you or attending to the child. And that presence creates the capacity that the child then has the capacity to observe yourself or himself from a different perspective, to reflect, etc., to take different perspectives. So that's huge. And I think this is really important to think also in terms of, because what happens, especially with digital media, we become isolated. And that's what makes me very, very sad. So some of you in the Jukugi last time maybe may remember, I asked, can you look at the teacher? Don't stop looking at your screen. It's somehow, sometimes the screen creates like a filter or barrier. So I think it's very important to think in terms of the capacity to pay attention to others and what really mindfulness does, because what it is as programs, as mindfulness programs, there's a lot of the group dynamics is very, very important. The interactions among participants, and actually one key practice of mindfulness is listening to another person. Not 100%, because actually in order to fully being present to the other person, you need to stay somehow aware of your body and your breath. And same when you speak. So that's a very, very important exercise. And as the father of 2 young children, that's one of the main benefits for me of practicing mindfulness. When I go back home, I still worry about some elements of work, but I can be more present with them because they need such presence and they need such care. So that's a huge topic. Thanks a lot for raising it.
Yeah, it was a nice one. Okay, all right. So please join me in thanking Professor DEROCHE for his talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much.